Vec, isn't he electric? That guy's awesome. Huh? He's great. It was not the kid-friendliest place in America. There wasn't that much to do, to be honest. I mean, there was an ice skating rink in Henderson when nobody even knew where Henderson was. It was where the ice skating rink was. And I've just seen this place grow so dynamically. And now I got to... And every time that I come here, I'm reminded of my childhood, and I think that's important because I think about my parents for a moment. My parents were immigrants from Cuba. There's Cubans here? All right. Be careful with the Cubans. Be careful with the Cubans. My parents were immigrants. They didn't really go to a lot of school in their own country. My dad was nothing more than he was a bartender at Sam's Town. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to start dating myself. My mom was a maid at the Imperial Palace. Huh? That's back when they used to have this thing. That was our family outing. We used to go see this thing called Legends in Concert, which was, so the old-timers remember Legends in Concert. It was like a fake Elvis, and it was like either one week it was the fat Elvis, the other week it was the skinny Elvis. Marilyn Monroe, whatever. My point is, that's the jobs they had. And you know what my parents were able to do with those jobs? A bartender and a maid? They owned a home. We didn't get to go to a lot. I mean, we didn't have everything we wanted. We had everything we needed. And the most important thing my parents were able to achieve is they were able to leave all 4 of their children better off than themselves. If there weren't any taxes on tips, the way Donald Trump is going to do, maybe we would have had more than what we wanted. But anyway, my parents achieved the American dream. They were never rich. They were never famous. They never owned more than one home. In fact, we never owned more than one car, primarily because my mom didn't like to drive. But they never owned more than one car. But they lived the American dream. They didn't leave us any money. They left us something even more important, and that is the chance to be anything we wanted to be. And that's possible because I was born a citizen of the greatest nation in the history of all mankind.
The narrative emphasizes that they didn't have everything they wanted, but they had everything they needed. This draws attention to a cultural shift in how people define success. Back then, having a stable home, food on the table, and a safe environment for raising children was considered a sign of having made it. The fact that they were able to achieve this while working in service industry roles underscores the opportunities America offered to immigrants at the time. It subtly points to an era when the cost of living was lower, wages went further, and even those without high paying jobs could secure a piece of the American dream. Another key part of this fact is its generational impact. The speaker stresses that his parents left their children better off, not necessarily in terms of money, but in the form of opportunities and freedom. Being born as a citizen in the United States gave him, and his siblings, a foundation to pursue whatever paths they chose. This is framed as one of the greatest gifts parents can give, highlighting that upward mobility was achievable through grit and dedication, even for those starting from the bottom. The emotional connection here also works as a persuasive tool.
Guys, I've never claimed that America's history is perfect, by the way. I've only claimed that our history is better than anybody else's history by far. We are a nation of progress and of opportunity, a nation that has changed the world and inspired the people of the world. But it's in trouble. You know it's in trouble. We know it's in trouble. It is a nation whose borders are not secure. We're not secure. This is not immigration. What's happening on our border, that's not immigration. That is mass migration. That is a total breakdown and total chaos, and it's by design. And that needs to stop. That is the choice in this election between a president, Donald J. Trump, who gave us the most secure border in modern history, and Kamala Harris, who as Vice President of the United States was the border czar and has allowed this country to be overrun by millions and millions of people from all over the world.
The speaker paints Donald Trump's presidency as a period when the border was secure, the economy was strong, prices were stable, wages were rising, and families could enjoy some financial breathing room at the end of the month. In contrast, under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, he argues that the nation has faced an uncontrolled border crisis, runaway inflation, stagnant job growth, and a loss of energy independence. This framing is designed to be compelling because it connects large-scale policy issues directly to everyday life. The mention of an unsecured border isn't just about immigration policy, it's tied to the idea of safety, sovereignty, and the rule of law. The speaker goes further, insisting that what is happening now isn't traditional immigration at all, but mass migration, portraying it as a breakdown of order that is intentional and harmful. This shifts the conversation from abstract policy to a sense of urgency and crisis, which can be especially persuasive for voters who feel their communities have been affected.
And that's the choice in this election. Between a man, when he was president, we had an economy where prices were stable, salaries were going up, and people could afford to have a little bit of money left over at the end of the month, against Kamala Harris, who has presided over runaway inflation, an unaffordable economy, a stale and stagnant job market. No matter what they tell you, your paychecks are not keeping pace with prices. They destroyed our economy and set us back. It's a choice. It's a choice between a president who had us on the road and had us right there at the precipice of complete and total energy independence. We don't have to worry about any other country in the world. We can fuel our economy because God has blessed us with those resources, and we were doing that under Donald Trump. And a vice president who wants to keep us from using our natural resources, and wants to force everyone to have to drive an electric car. And I like the guy who makes a lot of the electric cars, by the way. I'm not anti-electric car. I'm not anti-electric car. I've always called them golf carts, but I'm not against anti-electric car. I'm not banning them. But you can't run a modern economy on electric cars and solar panels. You just can't. You can't do it. And we have an opportunity to generate our own energy, and it's clean, and it's American. That's the choice. So what do you do? What do you do if you know you can't run on your record? And Kamala Harris can't run on her record. She was asked the other day, what would you do different than Joe Biden? I can't think of anything. And this was on The View, so it was like in the morning. 8 people were watching, and so she wasn't tired. And she couldn't think of a single thing she would have done different. That tells you everything you need to know. We can't afford another. If we have another 4 years like the last 4 years, you won't recognize your country. You won't. A President Biden-Harris administration that had us humiliated in Afghanistan. Absolutely humiliated. In fact, it's not a coincidence that after Afghanistan happened, Ukraine happened, October 7th happened, all the stuff China's doing against the Philippines happened, and maybe Taiwan soon enough happened. Because they said, this guy's weak, Joe Biden, and America's weak because he's weak, and we can get away with it. That wasn't happening under Donald Trump. Under Donald Trump, the head of the number one terrorist in the world that worked for Iran, Soleimani, he died.
Even North Korea's missile tests halted, suggesting that diplomacy backed by credible strength was effective. This framing is attractive to audiences who value national security and want America to be respected on the world stage. It taps into the belief that peace is maintained through strength, and that projecting resolve is just as important as having military capabilities. By painting Biden and Harris as hesitant, reactive, and ineffective, the speaker draws a sharp contrast to Trump's image of decisiveness and unpredictability, qualities that, in his view, kept adversaries in check. Another reason this fact resonates is that it connects international events to everyday American life. Instability abroad often leads to economic consequences at home. Rising energy costs, disrupted supply chains, and increased military spending. By linking global weakness to domestic hardship, the argument becomes more personal for the listener. It's not just about distant foreign policy. It's about whether Americans can afford gas, feel safe traveling, or trust that their country can protect its allies and interests.
That's the strength we need in our country. Again, that's what this election is about. saving our country, restoring our country, so your children, your grandchildren can inherit what we inherited, the greatest country in the history of the world. This election is about saving America, and there's only one way to save America. We have to win in Nevada. We have to win that Senate seat with Sam Brown. You got to come out and vote for him. He needs your support as well. And you need to do a huge service to your country. You need to make sure that everyone you know turns out and votes, so that in about, 12 days now? Less than 12 days, we will once again have a president, Donald J. Trump, running this country, saving this country, and making it what it belongs, a great country. Thank you and God bless. Thank you.